I still remember when $20 could fill a grocery bag with all the basics: bread, milk, eggs, and even a little something sweet for later. These days, I walk out with 2 small bags, $70 gone, and somehow I still forgot the milk. I'm 70 years old now, been retired for a while, and let me tell you, grocery shopping is not what it used to be. Prices are up, packaging is smaller, and the stores are full of little tricks to make us spend more without realizing it. My daughter checks in every weekend, and my grandson raids the fridge like it's his personal treasure chest. I do my best to keep it stocked, but each trip to the store feels like a guessing game. What's on sale? What's gone up again? And what did I forget this time? A few months ago, I decided enough was enough. I sat down with a cup of tea and a stack of receipts, determined to change the way I shop. And you know what? A few small changes made a big difference. Today, I'm going to share with you 10 simple smart grocery tips every retiree should know. Tip number 1, never shop without a list. Back when my wife was still around, we used to keep a small notepad on the kitchen counter. Every time we ran out of something, we'd jot it down. Milk, coffee, apples, toothpaste. It was simple, but it worked. These days, I live alone, but that habit stuck with me. And I've come to realize just how powerful that little grocery list really is. When you walk into a store without a list, you're walking into a battlefield with no armor. Every shelf is designed to tempt you. The music, the smells from the bakery, the colorful displays. It's all there for a reason. They want you to wander. They want you to grab things you didn't plan on buying. And most of the time, you do. I know I used to. I remember one afternoon, I stopped by the store just to grab a few things. No list, no plan. I walked out $75 later with 3 kinds of crackers, a frozen pie, a new bottle of hot sauce I'll probably never use, and no eggs. I stood there in the parking lot shaking my head thinking, what just happened? So now I keep it simple. I have a small notebook on the fridge. Every time I use the last of something, I write it down right away. I also keep a running list on a piece of scrap paper near my wallet, just in case I think of something while sitting in the living room. And before I go to the store, I double-check what I already have at home. No more guessing. Having a list gives you focus. You walk in with a purpose. You don't waste time or energy. You're less likely to forget something important, and you're much less likely to fall for those 2-for-1 traps or shiny new snacks that cost a fortune. Now, I'm not saying you can't pick up something extra every now and then. I love a good surprise deal as much as anyone. But when you have a list, that extra item becomes a choice, not a habit. And that's the difference. You're in control. Making a list doesn't take long. 5 minutes before you leave the house, glance through the fridge and pantry. What's low? What's gone? Write it down and stick to it. It may seem old-fashioned, but it works. It saves me money. It saves me time. And most importantly, it saves me stress. Because grocery shopping shouldn't feel like a guessing game. At our age, we've earned the right to shop smart and walk out of the store knowing exactly where our money went. Tip number 2, eat before you shop. This one might sound too simple, but believe me, it makes a world of difference. Eat before you shop. I mean it. Have a meal or at least a small snack. A sandwich, a piece of fruit, maybe even a handful of nuts. Something to take the edge off your hunger. I can't tell you how many times I've made this mistake. I used to swing by the store before dinner, thinking I'd be quick. Just grab a few items and be home in time to cook. But hunger has a way of making every aisle look like a feast. When your stomach is empty, your brain stops thinking clearly. Suddenly, everything looks good. You start tossing things into the cart that you don't really need. Frozen dinners, salty snacks, sweets you haven't had in years. Before you know it, your cart is full, your wallet is lighter, and your blood sugar is probably in for a wild ride. There was one time I went shopping right after skipping lunch. I ended up buying a giant bag of popcorn, a half dozen pastries, a container of deli fried chicken, and 3 frozen meals. None of those were on my list. And the worst part? I forgot the one thing I actually went there for: coffee filters. That's when it hit me. Shopping on an empty stomach is like grocery shopping with a teenager. You're impulsive, distracted, and constantly craving junk food. So I made a new rule for myself. I never go to the store hungry. Even if I'm just grabbing a couple things, I always eat first. It could be something small, like a hard-boiled egg or a slice of toast, just enough to remind my brain that I'm not in survival mode. Since I started doing that, I spend less, I buy better, and I feel more in control. I'm not as tempted by the snacks or sugary treats. I think more clearly. I stick to my list. It's such a simple change, but it sets the tone for the entire shopping trip. So next time you're heading out to the store, take a moment. Ask yourself, when was the last time I ate? And if it's been more than a few hours, do yourself a favor. Grab a bite. Your body, your wallet, and your grocery bags will thank you. Tip number 3. Know your store's layout. Now this might sound a little odd, but knowing the layout of your grocery store can be one of the best money-saving tools you have. I'm talking about understanding exactly where things are, and more importantly, where the traps are. Let me explain. Most grocery stores are designed to keep you inside longer. The fresh produce is usually up front, the dairy is in the very back, and all the expensive little impulse buys are parked right near the checkout. Why? Because the longer you walk around, the more likely you are to pick up things you don't need. It's a strategy and it works, unless you're prepared. I've been shopping at the same store for years, so I've made it a point to learn the layout. I know which aisle has the canned goods, where they stash the pasta, where the baking supplies are tucked away. I can walk in with my list, go straight to what I need, and get out without wandering. I treat it like a route. Dairy first, then produce, then dry goods. I avoid the snack aisles unless I specifically have something on my list. No wandering means no surprises at checkout. You'd be shocked how many dollars sneak into your cart just because you turned down one extra aisle. I also know which end caps are worth checking. End caps are those shelves at the end of the aisles. They're meant to grab your attention. Sometimes there's a real deal there, but other times it's just flashy packaging or a high-priced item they want to move. So I glance, but I don't grab unless it's on my list or I know it's a bargain. Another trick? I avoid the center aisles unless I need something specific. That's where most of the processed and packaged stuff lives. If I stick to the edges, produce, meat, dairy, I do better. Fresher food, fewer temptations. Knowing your store also saves time. I'm in and out in 20 minutes most days. No wandering, no second guessing, and no walking back to the same aisle 3 times because I forgot where the peanut butter is. It's a little thing, but it makes a big difference. At our age, we don't need to be zigzagging all over a giant store. Learn your layout, plan your path, and make shopping work for you, not the other way around. Tip number 4, buy store brands, most of the time. I used to be loyal to brands. For years, I bought the same box of cereal, the same brand of peanut butter, the same laundry detergent. I think a lot of us from my generation grew up believing that name brands were better, more reliable, safer. And sometimes that's true, but not always. And certainly not when it comes to groceries. I remember one day a few years back, I was comparing prices at the cereal aisle. My usual brand was nearly $5 a box, $4.89 to be exact. Right next to it was the store brand, same kind of cereal, same size box, and it was $2.99. That's almost $2 saved, and if you're buying cereal every couple of weeks, that adds up. So I bought it, just to try. And you know what? I barely noticed a difference. It tasted fine. And the real difference? It was in my wallet. That was the day I started really paying attention. Store brands, sometimes called generic or private label, have come a long way. They used to have plain packaging and a bad reputation. Not anymore. These days, most store brands are made by the same manufacturers who produce the name brand products. They just slap on a different label and lower the price. I'm not saying everything should be generic. There are a few things where I still stick with the brand I trust. My favorite coffee, for one. And there's a certain brand of soup I've been eating since I was a boy. Nothing else tastes quite the same. But for most things, flour, sugar, canned vegetables, pasta, dairy products, you can save a good amount by choosing the store version. Even things like trash bags and dish soap are worth testing. Try one store brand item each week. If you like it, great. If not, switch back. No harm done. But you might be surprised how many times you say, "This is just as good." I always say, saving money doesn't mean going without. It just means being smart about what you bring home. When I switched most of my pantry staples to store brands, I knocked nearly $20 off my weekly grocery bill. That's over $1,000 a year just from changing labels. And you know what? I still eat well. I still enjoy my meals, and I still have money left over for a nice lunch with my grandson now and then. That, to me, is a win. Tip number 5. Shop midweek, not on weekends. I used to do my shopping on Saturdays. It was the routine for years. Wake up, have some breakfast, and head to the store around 10 o'clock. But I started to notice something. Crowds, noise, long lines. The shelves were either picked over or being restocked. And the worst part? I was rushing. Then one day, out of curiosity, I went on a Wednesday morning instead. And let me tell you, it was a different world. The store was calm. The aisles were clear. There was no loud music, no people bumping into each other, no screaming toddlers. Just peace and quiet. And best of all, the deals were better. I got to talking with one of the employees stocking the shelves. She told me that Wednesdays are when they do most of their midweek markdowns. Items that didn't sell over the weekend often get discounted midweek to make room for new inventory. That includes meat, produce, bakery goods, things that can't sit on shelves too long. So now I make it a point to go shopping on Wednesday mornings. I have my coffee, make my list, and I'm out the door by 9. By 10:30, I'm back home, groceries put away, and the rest of the day is mine. Midweek shopping has saved me more than just money. It's saved me time and stress. I no longer have to fight for a parking spot or wait in line for 10 minutes just to check out. I can take my time, read labels, compare prices, and even chat with the cashier without holding up a crowd behind me. And you don't have to go on Wednesdays exactly. Maybe your store does markdowns on Tuesdays or Thursdays. Just ask. Most employees are happy to tell you when the new sales go up or when they do inventory cleanup. Knowing the best day to shop gives you the edge. It's a simple shift, but a powerful one. At this stage in life, we've earned the right to shop in peace. And if that peace comes with a few extra dollars saved on chicken or strawberries, even better. Tip number 6. Beware of deals that aren't really deals. Now here's a lesson I learned the hard way. Just because something says on sale doesn't mean it's actually a good deal. Stores are clever. They use big bold signs, flashy colors, and words like limited time or buy one, get one to grab your attention. But behind those signs is often just a well-designed trick. I used to get excited about buy one, get one free offers. I'd see a big bag of chips with that tag and think, well, why not? But one day I checked the price. That one bag cost almost $6. The regular price used to be $4. They raised the price, then offered a second one free. So instead of saving, I was actually spending more than I used to. Another example, 10 for $10 deals. You've probably seen them in the canned goods or frozen food sections, but you don't always have to buy 10. And often, those items are normally 99 cents anyway. So the deal isn't really saving you anything. Now when I shop, I take my time. I look past the signs and check the unit price. That's the little number on the shelf tag that tells you how much something costs per ounce or per pound. It helps you compare fairly, especially when one item is in a smaller package but looks cheaper. I also ask myself, do I need this right now? A deal isn't a deal if you weren't planning to buy it. I used to come home with all kinds of things just because they were on sale. Now I ask, is this on my list? Will I actually use it this week? If not, I keep walking. One of the best skills you can develop is being able to pause and think before you buy. The stores want you to react quickly. That's how they make money. But we can take our time. We've been around long enough to know better. So next time you're tempted by a flashy deal, slow down, do the math, check the price per unit, and ask yourself if it's something you truly need. Wisdom beats marketing every time. Tip number 7. Don't shop just because you're bored. This one might feel a little personal, but I think it's worth saying. Don't go to the grocery store just because you're bored or lonely. I've done it more than once. There were times, especially right after I retired, when the house just felt too quiet. Nothing on TV, nothing pressing to do. The days started to feel long, so I'd get in the car and head to the store. Not because I needed anything, but because it gave me something to do. The store is bright, busy, full of people. There's movement, energy, noise, something comforting about that when your house feels still. And I'd tell myself, I'll just grab a few things. But a few things turned into $20, $30, sometimes $50 worth of stuff I didn't need. Bags of snacks, novelty drinks, a new kind of frozen pizza, things I wouldn't even buy if I were thinking clearly. I didn't go because I was hungry or low on supplies. I went because I was looking for company. Now there's no shame in that. We all want to feel connected. But the grocery store is not the place to fill that kind of need. It's designed to sell, not to soothe. The people there are in a rush, and the items on the shelves are tempting by design. If you're not intentional, it's easy to mistake shopping for self-care. But they're not the same thing. So I started doing something different. When I get that feeling, that itch to just get out of the house, I pause. I ask myself, do I really need groceries today? Or do I just need a change of scenery? If it's the latter, I go for a walk. I call my daughter. I sit on the porch with a cup of coffee and wave at the neighbors. Sometimes I even head to the library and browse the newspaper in peace. And if I do go to the store, I make sure I bring a list with me and stick to it. This small change made a big impact. I spend less, I waste less, and I feel better about my choices. I no longer come home with bags of food I don't really want. I come home with what I need and with a clearer mind because I took time to listen to what I was really feeling. Shopping should serve a purpose. When we treat it like a pastime, we open ourselves up to all kinds of unnecessary spending. But when we listen to our needs, both physical and emotional, we make better decisions. And at this stage of life, peace of mind is worth more than a bag of chips on sale. Tip number 8, buy in bulk, but only what you use. I'll be honest, buying in bulk used to confuse me. It seems smart on the surface, right? You pay a little more up front, but you get more for your money. That works great for families with kids at home, but for folks like me living alone, buying in bulk can be a slippery slope. I remember the first time I walked into one of those big warehouse stores with my neighbor Jim. We both had new memberships, excited about all the savings we were going to rack up. I left with a 20-pack of paper towels, a tub of pretzels the size of a tire, and enough spaghetti noodles to feed a church group. Jim bought a massive tray of muffins and 5 pounds of shredded cheese. We were both feeling pretty proud of ourselves. 2 weeks later, the muffins were stale, the pretzels were half-eaten, and I still had boxes of pasta sitting in my pantry. That's when I realized buying in bulk is only a good idea if you're actually going to use what you buy. Now I approach it differently. I ask myself a few questions before grabbing the bigger size. First, is this something I eat or use regularly? Second, can I store it properly? Third, will I finish it before it goes bad? If the answer to all three is yes, then bulk might be the smart choice. If not, I leave it on the shelf. For me, there are a few staples that make sense to buy in bulk: oatmeal, rice, toilet paper, frozen vegetables. Those don't spoil and I use them all the time. But things like fruit, baked goods, or perishable dairy, I stick to smaller amounts. Sometimes it's better to pay a little more for a smaller package than to waste food and money on something I can't finish. Storage also matters. I've started using airtight containers to keep things fresher longer. I portion out bulk items into smaller servings. For example, if I buy a big bag of trail mix, I divide it into little jars or snack bags, so I'm not constantly reaching into the giant bag and eating too much at once. Bulk buying can be smart, but it needs to be thoughtful. It's not about how much you bring home. It's about how much you actually use. And there's something deeply satisfying about seeing an empty container that you finished, instead of throwing out food you forgot was there. So buy in bulk when it makes sense, when it's useful, manageable, and saves you real money. Otherwise, walk past the oversized packages and remember, waste is more expensive than paying a little extra for just enough. Tip number 9, freeze what you can. Living alone means that food tends to last longer, but not always in a good way. Bread goes stale before I finish it. Fruits ripen faster than I can eat them. Leftovers sit in the fridge just a little too long, and then into the trash they go. For a while, it frustrated me. I felt like I was wasting money every single week, until I rediscovered something so simple, I had to laugh at myself. My freezer. Freezing food used to be second nature when I had a house full of people. Cook a big batch of stew, freeze half. Buy extra meat on sale, freeze it for later. But somewhere along the way, I stopped doing that. Maybe because the portions were smaller. Maybe because I thought it was too much trouble. But once I started freezing smart again, everything changed. Now, as soon as I come home from the store, I portion things out. A pack of chicken breasts? I divide them into freezer bags, 1 or 2 pieces per bag. A loaf of bread? I wrap half of it tightly and freeze it. Bananas starting to turn brown? I slice them and toss them in the freezer for smoothies or baking later on. Cheese, soup, even leftover rice. Most of it can be frozen if you do it right. The key is portioning and labeling. I write the date on everything with a marker. I use freezer-safe bags or containers, and I press out the air to keep things from getting freezer burn. And when I need a quick meal, I can just grab a portion, defrost, and go. This has helped me waste less, spend less, and feel more prepared. There's comfort in knowing I have food ready to go without needing to rush out to the store. It's especially helpful when I don't feel like cooking, or when I have guests coming over last minute, like when my daughter stops by unexpectedly with the grandkids. The freezer is your friend, especially in retirement. It gives you flexibility. It helps stretch your dollars. And it keeps your meals fresh, even if you're only cooking for one. So next time you're about to throw something away, ask yourself, can this be frozen? You might be surprised by how much you can save, one bag at a time. Tip number 10. Track your grocery spending, just for 1 month. Now I'll admit, this one took me a while to actually do. Tracking spending sounded like too much work. I've never been one for spreadsheets or apps. I figured, I'm careful enough, I know what I'm spending. But do you know what changed my mind? It was a conversation with my grandson. He's in college now, learning about finance and budgeting. One afternoon, he asked me, "Grandpa, how much do you spend on groceries each month?" And I said, "Oh, maybe $200. He raised an eyebrow. "Have you checked?" I hadn't, not in years. So that day, I went to my kitchen drawer and pulled out every grocery receipt I had kept, some crumpled, some clean, and added them up. Let me tell you, I was way off. That month, I had spent almost $360. That is $160 more than I thought. Not because of big purchases, but because of little things. Extra trips, snacks, impulse buys, forgotten items that led to repeat visits. So, I decided to track every grocery expense for one full month. Nothing fancy. I used a pen and a little spiral notebook. Each time I went shopping, I wrote the date, the store, what I bought, and the total. I kept it simple, but consistent. By the end of the month, I saw patterns I had never noticed before. I was going to the store 4 or 5 times a week, usually for small things I had forgotten or wanted on a whim. Each trip cost me around $20 or $30. Not much by itself, but it added up fast. I also realized I was buying a lot of the same items over and over, things I could have planned for better. Seeing it all on paper was like turning on a light. I finally understood where the money was going. Not just the totals, but the habits behind them. I wasn't being careless. I was being unaware. And awareness, as it turns out, is powerful. So if you take only one thing from this video, let it be this. Track your grocery spending just for 1 month. Use a notebook, a piece of paper, or even a small calendar. You do not need a computer. Just write it down. After 4 weeks, you will see the truth of your habits. And from there, you can make changes, not based on guesses, but on real numbers. For me, this little practice helped me cut down my grocery spending by almost $75 a month. That is $900 a year, just by paying attention. And more than the money, it gave me back something even better: clarity. I no longer worry about whether I'm overspending. I know. And when I do choose to treat myself, I do it with confidence.